This was me at my first real job at Jersey Mike's Subs well over a decade ago. Yeah, I know. I thought I'd show you how I make better sandwiches now using what I learned making thousands of subs. Because while there's a lot of things that Jersey Mike's gets right, there's definitely some areas that could use improvement. We're going to make 2 completely different style sandwiches to showcase a simple 4-pillar framework to make the perfect sandwich no matter what ingredients you want to use. And I'll tell you what's actually in the Jersey Mike's oil blend, why you might want to steer clear of it, and what I like to use instead. So let's get going, because today we're making Okay, so the best sandwiches feature a balanced representation of what I like to call the 4 pillars of sandwichdom: salt, fat, acid, and textural contrast. So let's explore how those come into play with this first sandwich, which is one of my all-time favorites. It's a classic Italian cold cut sub, but it's the attention to detail in the right areas that takes it from solid to spectacular. I'm gonna very finely shave some iceberg lettuce. We're gonna build a highly flavored and seasoned concoction of veggies to do the heavy lifting in this sub. Personally, I find this way more efficient than dousing the entire kitchen with oil and vinegar, however much fun that may have been for me. Then I'm gonna finely slice some shallots. And I'm using shallots today instead of onions because I find that onions can often significantly overpower and become the dominating flavor in sandwiches. That might be controversial, who knows. And to this, I'm gonna add some red wine vinegar and some olive oil. So if my memory serves me correctly, the Jersey Mike's oil blend is about 1 part olive oil to 2 parts canola oil. And I think they're doing this mostly just to save money because olive oil is significantly more expensive than canola oil. Now, seed oils have kind of gotten a bad rap from the internet health police over the last 5 to 10 years. So I'll leave it up to you to decide truly what's what, but purely from a flavor perspective, we can do better. Blending with a neutral oil could be useful if you're using a fancy finishing olive oil that's more bright and acidic and overpowering, but usually for a sandwich like this, I like to go for a more mild, everyday use olive oil. Alright, after our oil and vinegar are in, I'm gonna add some salt and pepper, followed by some thinly sliced pepperoncinis. These are gonna give a little extra punch and a touch more of that vinegary bite, which I love. Okay, next let's talk bread, because one could argue, and I often do, that bread is the most important part of a sandwich. So earlier I picked up 2 different Italian rolls at my local Italian deli. One is more of a crusty roll that they refer to as their hard roll, which is going to be great for our second sandwich today, but for this one I'm going to use their soft roll. I find that a softer roll is going to be able to wrap around the ingredients better, and since we already have some crunch from the iceberg lettuce and the veggies, we're just about set in the textural contrast department. And speaking of helping it wrap around the ingredients, I'm going to remove some of the inside bread to help with just that. You can save the inside for breadcrumbs for your meatballs, or give a piece to your pup. Or don't. She's actually gluten-free. Alright, assembly time. This is the way I like to build an Italian sub. Start off with a layer of provolone cheese, which has a nice mild flavor and serves as a nice neutral foundation to lay the rest on top of. And typically I like my meat sliced relatively thin on sandwiches like these. Then I'm gonna go on with some regular old ham. Once the ham's down, I'm gonna add some capicola, which has a salty and more deeply cured flavor than ham, and some fennel and star anise flavors to it. Then finally, I'm gonna go on with a hard salami. Jersey Mike's uses salami and pepperoni, but I kind of find it overkill and prefer to keep the pepperoni to my pizzas. You'll also notice that I'm centering all these ingredients across the bread because at the end we're gonna sort of fold it all like a book. Next, we're gonna get on our seasoned veggies on top, followed by some Roma tomatoes, which I've salted because it's mandatory. Okay, now for the fun part. It's time to shove everything in there, and even though we're technically not taking this anywhere, we're still gonna wrap it up. I'll never forget how my manager Nick would always excitedly explain to new hires that Everything in the sub gets married together on the car ride home. So while it might be partially psychological, I tend to think it tastes a bit better after a brief rest, so I'm gonna wrap it up and let it hang out for a second to let everything get happy. Then we'll cut it right down the middle to see how it is. Oh yeah, you can see a clear distinction of the layers. It's sort of like a rainbow. Nothing is falling out, my hand isn't soaked with oil, this is the way. You got all the pillars of sandwichdom covered, from the saltiness of the meats, the fat from the olive oil and the cheese, the acidity from the vinegar and the tomatoes, and some textural contrast from the lettuce, snappy pepperoncinis, and the soft roll. And that's good. One sandwich down, on to the next. Now, this one is the showstopper. It's a prosciutto sandwich that was inspired by Salvatore La Rosa. He's the sole operator of an Italian sandwich shop, which he runs out of his Queens apartment called Salvos. Anyway, he's a boss. This sandwich is inspired by one I had of his. We're gonna start off by roasting a red bell pepper, and there's lots of ways to do them, but this is my favorite. I like to do it right over a direct flame, and you wanna be a bit careful with this so that you don't burn your fingies. The goal is to get it as evenly charred as possible, but don't be worried if it looks a little bit burnt, because that's sort of the idea. Once we got an even char, transfer it to a bowl, then cover it. Let it steam under its own heat for about 10 to 15 minutes, then gently remove the outer skin. What you're left with is perfectly roasted flesh underneath. Slice it into pieces, and you got yourself some roasted red bell peppers. Or you could just buy some at the store. Also, I wanted to let you guys know that if you've been digging the background music, I write and produce all of it myself, and it's available on streaming platforms under the name Jandre FM. And you can download the files for free on my Patreon. No sign up required. My channel isn't big enough for sponsors yet, but on Patreon I'll be posting additional recipes, videos, music, and more. So please consider supporting my content with a membership. I'll leave a link down below. Okay, for our bread, since we're using exclusively soft ingredients on this one, we're gonna be using a more crusty type of roll. You could even toast it if you want. This will help us check our textural contrast pillar. After scooping the bread, we're gonna go on with some olive oil for lubrication. Then we'll follow that up with our red bell peppers and a pinch of salt. Then for the acid, we're gonna use some balsamic glaze. It also has some sweetness, which is gonna help enhance the sweetness of the peppers. I bought this at the store, but you can make it yourself with some balsamic vinegar and a little bit of sugar. Just reduce it in a pan until it's nice and sticky. Next, we're gonna go on with some fresh mozzarella cheese for some of that fatty, pillowy action. Get some nice even coverage, and then we're gonna follow this up with some imported prosciutto. The prosciutto is gonna give us a nice salty kick, and it's got some great complex aged flavor. It's just so dang good. Then I'll give it one more shot of olive oil to help with lubrication just a little more. Then finally I'm gonna finish it with some hot honey, which is gonna play nicely off the prosciutto, followed by some freshly cracked black pepper for the earthiness, and just to sort of bring everything together. Following Manager Nick's rules, we're gonna wrap this puppy as well. After an agonizing 5 minutes or so, let's cut into it, and wow, yeah, that looks as intended. All right, let's try it and see how we did. Wow, okay, pro move here, I'm gonna get a little bit more balsamic on there. Damn, everything plays so well. You got full representation of the sandwich pillars, from the saltiness of the prosciutto, the fattiness of the cheese, the brightness from the balsamic, and the textural contrast from the crusty bread and the soft interior. So now, hopefully you're armed with a few extra tools and considerations for real sandwich glory. When in doubt, just consult the 4 pillars of sandwichdom, and you'll be in good shape. Regardless, make these sandwiches. Or you could check out my meatball sub video. I'll leave a link down below. All right, we did it. Give a like, subscribe, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.